My favourite professional one was Warrington. There's nothing like playing for your hometown rugby club. It just means a little bit more to you. Physically, I was very fit. We were paid to train. I'd gone to regional camp, I'd been to national camp, I'd played for England by the time I was 16. So I'd had some success there as well, so I think all of that helped. Having that camaraderie, that friendship that you get from playing sports, I try and bring that into our day-to-day workings now at the charity. But I've progressed sort of from a coach into a bit of a team captain for our rugby league team at the charity, into rugby league manager, and now my role is general manager. So we aim to use the power of the Warrington Wolves badge to change people's lives through sporting, activity, art, dance, theatre.
Hello, welcome to the Sporting Specials podcast. I'm your host, Louis Hunt, in which through my episodes I intend to inspire you to get started in pursuing the sport and recognise how important sports are to our lives. I will do this by bringing relevant sporting guests onto my podcast to share their life stories on how sports have impacted their lives. For this episode I am joined by Lee Mitchell and we will focus on the sport of rugby. Lee Mitchell is an ex-professional rugby player who now works for the Warrington Wolves Charity Foundation, in which they aim to inspire communities into improving their mental and physical health through getting young to old people taking part in sporting activities which mainly revolve around rugby. Some of the most recognisable teams that Lee has played for in his professional career include Warrington Wolves, in which he made his debut in 2007, London Broncos, Castleford Tigers, Rochdale Hornets and many other professional rugby league teams. He played in the positions of a prop, second row or a loose forward. In this episode, we will dive deeper into his professional rugby career, in which we will touch on the topics of driving inspiration, dealing with pressure, teamwork, leadership, as well as gathering detail on his new line of work in the Charity Foundation.
Good evening. Rugby League first. The Capras hope their new recruit Lee Mitchell will add much needed firepower to the forward pack. The bulky front row are coming with plenty of experience playing in the English Super League.
Now, there's a lot of competition on the pitch, but for me, there's a lot of competition off it as well. I'm a trustee at Leeds Rhinos Foundation. I'm here with Lee Mitchell, who works for the Warrington Foundation, who are two of the biggest foundations in rugby league, trying to give back, trying to grow the game from the ground up. I know Warrington do a fantastic job.
So with our SkyTry money, we get to every primary school in year 3 and year 4 across Warrington. Last year we coached about 3,500 children, all free coaching with us Warrington Wolves coaches.
So without further ado, I welcome to you Lee Mitchell.
Hi Lee, thanks for coming on the podcast today. So from what I've gathered, you're an ex-rugby player and now work for the Warrington Wolves Charity Foundation. That right?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. So for the first topic, I'd like to talk about driving inspiration. So at what age did you start playing rugby as a hobby and how did it make you feel?
So I started playing when I was about 6 years old. My dad took me down to a couple of teams in Warrington at first and then I ended up at Rylands, ended up playing there. I used to love it, to be fair I still do now, but that enjoyment of playing, it was a sport I did relatively well at quite early on, and I enjoyed playing.
So what other teams have you played for?
So as a junior, as a community player, I played for Rylands at first, and then the team that I was in got too many players and we split. And I actually think it was a fallout between parents and coaches. We ended up going to Latchford and we started up the Latchford Albion Unicorns. That was in 1998, I think. And we were the first junior team at Latchford to go through there. So they were my two community teams.
What was your favourite professional team that you played for?
My favourite professional one was Warrington. There's nothing like playing for your hometown rugby club. It just means a little bit more to you. And I probably I knew I loved playing for Warrington when I did, but I think I only realised how special it was once I'd moved on to other teams, because you don't quite have that same connection to the club.
How did rugby impact your physical and mental health?
So physically, I was very fit. We were paid to train until we had to run a certain amount of shuttles and lift weights, and so physically, I always prided myself on being the first in the fitness drills and trying to be the strongest possible. Mentally, I think it was when I was younger, particularly when I was at Warrington. And again, I probably only realised this more so when I was older, but it was quite a challenge playing at an elite level and the pressures that come with that. Something that I probably personally struggled with a little bit. I feel if I was to go back in time now and know what I know about myself and about them, the mental pressures, I probably would deal with it a little bit better, but at that time it probably was a bit of a challenge for me.
So what was your drive and motivation like while you were trying to make it professional?
I watched a lot of rugby. I think I've just got an internal drive. No matter what I do, I want to be the best at it. I want to be good. So I think that's what drove me. That was what my motivation was. I did a lot of training on my own away from rugby teams. So even from an early age, and mum and dad supported me a lot with it, but I had a gym in the garage which I lifted weights, and they got that for me because I'd used to do press-ups, sit-ups and exercise in my bedroom. Like most days after school, I'd go out running on my own. I'd do a 3-mile run just to keep because I wanted to be successful. I think I've always had that drive to do that.
That must have taken a lot of dedication.
Yeah, I think it did. When I look back now, I think, I was dedicated. It didn't feel like a chore at the time. It was just something I wanted to do, and I had that because I had that motivation. It was quite easy to do that, to go chase it. I also was having some success as well because I was okay at playing rugby. I was good. I'd got picked in all the Warrington service area teams at the time. I'd gone to regional camp, I'd been to national camp, I'd played for England by the time I was 16. So I'd had some success there as well, so I think all of that helped drive me forward.
So can you tell me about your most successful or fulfilled moment while you were playing rugby?
Oh, okay. I think probably one individual effort I don't know, I think it was 2008. We played Leeds, and the story of the week is we'd had a change in coaches quite recently, and I trained really, really well that week. And the coach at the time, Jimmy Lowe's, came up to me and said, "You're playing this week because you've trained like unbelievable, so you're on the bench." And then about me being a young lad, thinking I was probably going to get about 10 minutes at the end of the game, Louis Anderson, who played in my position, broke his arm, and I ended up going onto the pitch and made a little half break, and I set Matt King up to score. And then in the second half, I'd got a ball, or I got off a scrum, and I managed to make a break and scored it was probably about 50 metres, but 40 metres. I always tell everyone it was more like 70 though, and I scored in the corner. And I think as an individual effort, that was probably the one moment that stands out to me the most, that game in particular.
So how did playing in front of a crowd affect you, the way you played?
I always enjoyed playing in front of a crowd. I liked playing particularly at home at Halliwell Jones. The crowd's always loud, they always get behind you. So I always thought it was a positive. It's quite weird really, because I think you feel the energy, but you don't really quite take in everything you don't hear what's said, you just feel the noise rather than
focus on your own game.
you quite, I guess quite close in your thoughts when you're playing. Like you're very focused on the process of.
So that leads me on to the question: did you feel the pressure to perform well each match at a high professional level?
Yes, I did. Yeah, very much so. I did. Not from a crowd perspective or anyone else, but I think the pressure that I felt was some internal pressure from myself, potentially some pressure from coaches as well. I did at the end of my time at Warrington, I developed quite a fear of failure.
Yeah.
Which, because I was feared of failing, I then didn't play as well as I could have, and I think that hindered me. I had to deal with that a little bit.
How do you feel you overcame this pressure?
I didn't at first at Warrington, and I think that's where my sort of career at Warrington ended, because then you don't get offered a contract because you've not been playing as well, and I couldn't quite break that cycle. I then ended up going to Australia for a year. That really, really helped me, because it took me out of my comfort zone as a person. I was, up until this point, I'd lived at home with mum and dad, really good upbringing. I then moved into my own house because I was lucky enough to be paid early as a rugby player. Playing for my hometown club, everything was going good. And then I think, so I was quite young and quite naive, I guess, at the time. I hadn't had much life experience, and I think going to Australia gave me that life experience where I went, this is the big wide world now, and I started to mature a little bit, and I started to...
It developed your skills, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
So, moving on to teamwork, how did playing rugby develop your teamwork skills?
Right, well, it's a team sport, so you have to rely on your teammates, particularly at all levels. We had a really good thing under Tony Smith, who was the coach at the time, where he wasn't bothered about the result. All he was bothered about was everybody doing their job the best they could. Because if everyone was working in that way and working together, then we were a good team. We were going to win games.
So how has developing your teamwork skills helped you throughout your life, especially in the careers now, like for the Warrington Wolves Charity Foundation?
So it massively helps you. Having that camaraderie, that friendship that you get from playing sports, I try and bring that into our day-to-day workings now at the charity. We also we understand it's really strange because there's like moments in a game where it's really tough. So for those who haven't played rugby, it's hard to. But sometimes, like if you end up with the ball really close to your own try line, that next run in is really a tough run because the other team know you're going to run. So sometimes we try and use scenarios like that where we have to work together to relate to day-to-day work with us. So sometimes it is a bit tough at work, but we drag each other along and we help each other out. And I guess that's where that teamwork element helps us now in our day-to-day, helps me sort of explain, get people to come on the journey with us. So
have you developed your leadership skills in any way through your rugby life?
Yes, I have. I think I've probably always been a leader. I think I've got some leadership skills by nature. Being in a rugby team and generally doing well, people look up to you naturally. I think that probably made me become more of a leader, I guess, even as a youngster. It's something I really enjoy as well. I think it's a personality thing for me. I enjoy leadership. I enjoy the challenge of helping people become the best they can be and be better. I want people to be better than I am, because that's what success is. Like young people now are gonna be me and better in the future. The town's gonna be in a better place. And I think if I can get some of that with what we do. I do enjoy my leadership.
So has this leadership helped you through the foundation as well?
Yeah, it has. I've progressed. I started as a rugby coach going out into primary schools probably 10 years or so ago now, and then I've managed to naturally progress with some good mentorship as well from our CEO. He's really sort of challenged me and developed me, but I've progressed sort of from a coach into a bit of a team captain for our rugby league team at the charity, into rugby league manager, and now my role is general manager, so I oversee all the day-to-day activities, so I've got a bit more of a wider scope. But I think all of them things I've learned over the years through the rugby, through managing an individual team, I'm now able to try and practice, and I'm not perfect at it. I've still got a lot to learn, but there's it's something I do enjoy.
I work at Bradshaw Primary School. The activities that Warrington Wolves Foundation set up at our school have been rugby sessions and tournaments for Year 3 and Year 4. This has been happening for over 8 years. They have just set up dance sessions for selected pupils, and this includes the children working towards a group performance.
I work at a mainstream primary school with 2 designated provisions for children with autism in Warrington. And the Warrington Wolves Foundation come in each week and teach the children in one of the designated provisions. They teach them PE. It's an hour session each week, and they do a range of different skills and a range of different sports.
In addition, they have delivered assemblies promoting their work and providing information about events in the community. The impact of the Foundation's involvement has been significant in terms of the positive engagement of all pupils in learning rugby skills and general teamwork. In some cases, some children have gone on to play for rugby teams. I am sure the dance sessions will equally engage those involved and boost their self-esteem.
The impact it has made on the children, they have grown in confidence, and they have grown in their ability in sports, and they are able to deal with winning and losing much better.
One word I would use to describe the work of the Foundation is inspiring.
One word I would use to describe the Warrington Wolves Foundation is inclusive.
Alright, so now I want to focus on the Warrington Wolves Charity Foundation specifically. So first of all, how did you get into it?
So I got into it. When I'd finished playing in Australia, I came back and Whitehaven offered me a contract. No, Whitehaven.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Yeah. Up in Cumbria, they offered me a rugby contract there. It was only part-time, so it was part-time rugby. They said, "Oh, why don't you come along and do some sports coaching for us in the schools?" And that was my first taste of community activity, charitable activity, alongside a rugby club. So then I really took to it. I really enjoyed it. I probably had one of my best rugby playing years at Whitehaven at that year. I played really well on field. And I think a lot of it is because I was really enjoying the off-field, the coaching in the schools, and they got me qualified, and I managed to set up a couple of little programs for them, and I naturally quite took to it. As that year was progressing, Warrington, a job came available, so I applied for the job and got the job working with them, and I've been here since.
So do you believe at Whitehaven that developed your skills in order to go into Warrington?
Yes, it did. It gave me a taste of what that, because I had no idea what that charitable work was like, or coaching. I probably had an interest in coaching. I think I'm quite a thinker, so even when I was playing, I was always trying to coach myself, or I guess in some of that leadership, help others be the best they can be, should get better, help each other grow. So I think I probably always had a bit of a thing with, well, once I'm finished playing rugby, I'm going to go be a coach. I was probably more thinking coaching as a head coach.
Yeah.
But the taste of the work in the community in Whitehaven sort of like, actually, I really like this. I can make a difference.
Yeah. So that's what made you want to pursue it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you give me a brief overview of what the Charity Foundation aims to do to help people?
So we aim to use the power of the Warrington Wolves badge to change people's lives within our town. That's our overview. We do that at the moment through predominantly 3 departments. It's going to be 4 very soon, but we have a disability team. They work with 200-300 disability participants every single week at numerous times through sporting activity, art, dance, theatre, and we've got a really nice community there and some really fantastic staff who support them. We have a rugby league team who deliver everything from rugby to 2-year-olds to walking rugby to 80-year-olds, and all our performance programmes, the stuff at Priestley, secondary school competitions, anything rugby league in this town, we are supporting with or delivering ourselves. And then the other area of work is health and wellbeing, which again is a growing team for us. We do a lot around the elderly at the moment. So we have mature movers, we have in the sheds, which is a reminiscence session for people with dementia and also people who are in care homes. And we have a couple of men's mental health initiatives. The first one being Offload, so that's a mental fitness program for 6 weeks. That's everyone's starting point with us on the mental fitness journey. And then we have a series, a group of activities afterwards that people can join once they've been through Offload, which is walking rugby. They're doing a walk and talk at the moment. They go for curries once a month with each other, and that's a bit of a community there as well, where blokes are supporting each other to be better. And I think that's, in a nutshell, sort of that's what we do and how we do it.
So how do people get involved with that then?
So we try, it's open to everyone. I think there's one of the really powerful things about rugby league at the moment is literally anybody can be involved. It's so inclusive. Whether you've got a physical disability or a disability that means you're a wheelchair user, you can still take part in our sport. So if people want to get involved, they generally reach out. It's to us, and they can contact us, and we can, if they've got something, we can point them in the right direction to what programs would suit. Word of mouth really helps us. People telling other people. Recently just invested in a social media manager, so he's been with us now just over 6 months. So I think we felt it was really important for us to showcase some of that, some of them stories on social media better. So that's how people can get involved. People can volunteer with us as well. You don't have to be a participant. It might be that someone's got a bit of time on their hands, or they want to build their CV up. Like, we do have lots of people who come to us, and then we might be able to say, actually, what's your interest? Oh, you've got a relative with a disability, why don't you go and support the Learning Disability Rugby League team? We can match that up so people can help and be involved with us.
So what does your work look like on a day-to-day basis?
So on a day-to-day basis, I support the 3 team leaders, the health and wellbeing, disability and rugby league team leaders, to ensure that they've got everything they need so that they and their teams can be successful and we can continue to grow. So that's a large part of what I do. I'm also working with our CEO at the moment from a strategic angle, because our sort of next steps on our journey as a charity is we want to grow. We want to try and double in size. So we've got some key financial targets which will allow that to happen, if or at least help us get there. on the journey. We also want to grow our staff, so I'm looking at how strategically we train staff to develop their skills, get them to be more confident, competent in areas, and also looking at what funding pots are available outside of what we're doing. So a little bit of what I'm doing at the moment, where I mentioned our 4th department, we're going to go for like a youth engagement education type role for it'll be working with children who are on the risk of or at risk of falling out of education in year 8 or 9, or potentially could end up in trouble outside of school with the police, or getting involved in county lines. Like we're looking at people and trying to directly support them, but using the badge to sort of give them maybe another option in their life, a different choice. And also a level 1 qualification for 16 to 18 year olds, so that would be probably targeting our NEET community, so anybody who's maybe not passed the GCSEs or fell out of education, us trying to re-engage them at 16 years old. So that's going to be the look of our new department. So that's what
So what activities do you do with these people, but mainly young people? What when you go into schools, what do you do?
So the one that we do in the schools the most, the primary schools, is our biggest programme. We've clustered the primary schools up into groups around a community rugby league club. So we've got 8 community rugby league clubs in the town. So we've got 8 clusters of primary schools. When we go in the primary school, we start with week 1, which is grip and carry. Week 2, we go back, we learn how to catch and pass. Week 3, we do tag, tackle and play the ball. Week 4, we play some games. Week 5, we play games again, because there's a lot to learn in terms of how the game feels. And then in the last week, we invite them to a festival at a community rugby club, because what we want to try and do with that programme is get somebody in who's 8 or 9 years old, in year 3 or 4, come on this rugby journey with us in school, really enjoy the sessions because our coaches are good, enthusiastic, engaging, and then what we want to be able to say to them is go and play for Banky Bulls or go and play for Latchford Giants, and we try and get them to go to the community club, because then that's how we grow our participation, we get more people playing. So that's probably the easiest one to explain. That programme alone will coach 4,500.
So it's about that development of kids, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yes, it is. I think with the underlying thing across everything we do, disability, health and wellbeing and rugby league, is we aim to try and help people be the best they can be. Help them grow, help them find opportunities that they might not have known about before. In particular, disability, we do a lot of work in Green Lane as a school, doing all their PE. But actually, if they enjoy PE, why can't they then play for Warrington Wolves? Because they can, because we've got a learning disability rugby team.
So, what would you say is your biggest achievement of the foundation?
There's probably a couple. Like a personal achievement. Any achievement.
Whether it's a group or personal.
I'm going to use this one. I think there's 2. I'm really, really proud of what we've developed at Priestley College. I think the rugby programme's there. We've got 2 rugby teams, a female rugby team now, and a relationship with Priestley. That's one. The other one that I'm probably really proud of is seeing Leon Hayes play. As a young Warrington lad, play first team and do so well, because we've been working with Leon, and I'm not saying Leon's got to where he's got to because of us, he's not, but we've been part of his journey definitely since he was in year 4 or 5. He's been on holiday camps with us, he's been to our development sessions. He's been we've coached him in school. He's been in all our school's competitions and finals, and seeing him progress now, become a first team player and do really, really well, and see the crowd get behind him, that makes me feel like quite proud about that.
So for the last question, I want to find out, how do these activities hosted by the foundation, how do you track the success of that?
Good question. So we do a couple of things. We have a monitoring and evaluation software which we use. It's a website called Upshot, and everything we do is tracked on there. But that gives us lots of output data. So that gives us, we've had 50 sessions this week and 300 people have attended them sessions. Most of the sessions, that's a register, so we see people's details. They sign up and then we tick them in when they've done. So that's the first element of it. That gives us some big numbers. So that's where I can say to you, we coach 4,500 people in primary schools each year, because that gets recorded on there, and that's where I know there's 300 people in our disability community and 80 men who've been on our offload programme, Men's Mental Health, since January. The other thing we're trying to do is use social media to capture the impact we have there, telling stories through a case study, because it's not always the numbers. Sometimes telling a story about one person and the impact we've had on that person's life is more powerful than seeing a document or a flyer with a load of numbers on it. Telling that story in a really creative way, that's how we measure our impact and success.
Okay, so that's it then. Thanks, Lee, for coming on to the podcast today.
It's a pleasure, thanks for having us.
That's it then. Thanks for tuning in to the Sporting Specials podcast. I've been your host, Louis Hunt, here with rugby guest Lee Mitchell, discussing his rugby career and work with the Warrington Wolves Charity Foundation. I hope from this episode that you have taken inspiration from Lee's life within the sporting world. I hope that you have taken an interest in the sport of rugby. It was particularly interesting learning about his work with the Warrington Wolves Charity Foundation, which is there to help people like you in getting started in your sporting journey. Whether you just want to take rugby as a side hobby or want to pursue it at a high level, you will be supported throughout your whole journey. Don't forget to tune in to our next episode, which will be released 1 week from today, where you can find it on YouTube or Spotify. Once again, thanks for tuning in.